So I recently received a comment on Twitter where a follower was deciding between maintaining his current 120K remote job versus taking a new offer for 300K for a job in Los Angeles. Now, I responded to this saying that I would take 120K remote over 300K in Los Angeles. Most people tend to agree, but in this video, we're going to take this a level deeper and we're going to go through the calculations and an exact explanation of what that would look like, because I think that this is something a lot of people wrestle with. So here I have smartasset.com, which is a great website for calculating estimated income taxes. And I've gone ahead and input the $300,000 that this guy's expected to receive, as well as California as his location, Los Angeles. And here we have an income tax breakdown, a breakdown of how much taxes you would expect to pay on that 300K. So we have federal income tax, we have FICA, which is basically like employment tax or federal insurance contributions, right? Social Security and Medicare. And then we have state income tax. So after tax, the take-home pay is $186,000, which actually isn't that bad. I was expecting it to be closer to 150, so that's not too bad. You know, marginal tax rate 35%, blah blah blah. And so we're looking at $186,000 after tax. Now keep this number in mind, because here I have another page on smartasset.com, and here we're looking at St. Petersburg, Florida, with 120K. Now, the reason I chose Florida here is because if you were remote and you followed the teachings that we have regarding, switching your state tax residency to a zero income tax state, such as Florida or Texas, then this is what you would have. So 120K income, and your total income tax breakdown, your take-home pay here is $91,000 if you were to pay federal, but most of my audience knows about the foreign earned income exclusion, and you can search and we'll have other videos talking about the foreign earned income exclusion, but you'd really only be paying $9,000 in taxes on that 120K income if you went abroad. So 120,000 minus 9,000 is obviously, give or take, $111,000. So consider if you were in California, you'd be making $186,000, or if you were remote, your take home would be $111,000. So if you were in California versus remote, you'd be making an extra $70,000. Now, the original number we were looking at was 120 versus 300, right? And so, the top line number probably confuses people because you think you'd be earning $180,000 more. But actually, after taxes, you would only be earning an extra $70,000 more. So the increase is less than half what you were expecting. You were expecting to make $180,000 more, but you've only earned $70,000 more. So it's not nearly as significant as you think it is. Obviously, all else being equal, making $70K more would be better, right? But obviously you'll be giving up your location independence, and you're going to have to live in Los Angeles. You have to live in California. California is, by the way, a side note, not a great state to be a resident of if in the future you want to be a digital nomad, because California really tries to keep you in the tax system even after you've left. We'll talk about that in future videos, but just so you know, California is like the worst state in the US to be a resident of when you're thinking about your future. So now let's jump over to Numbeo.com. This is a pretty well-known site for giving you a reasonably accurate idea of the cost of living in different cities and in different countries. So let's go ahead and type in Los Angeles here and get a little bit of an idea of the cost of living. So this says that a family of four, estimated cost $5,500 without rent, single person $1,500 without rent. I think most people listening to this would agree that, $1,500 a month without rent in Los Angeles would be a very depressing existence. So I'm surprised that this number is so low. In any case, it says that LA is 100% more expensive than Mexico City, meaning twice as expensive, and rent is on average 220% higher than Mexico City. It's saying that the average meal at a cheap restaurant is $25 in Los Angeles, and the average meal for two people in a mid-range restaurant is $120. Okay? So this is a pretty cool website that if you haven't seen it before, you can basically type in any city here. And what we're going to do is do a little comparison. So I was thinking we could do Los Angeles versus Tijuana. So Tijuana is interesting because it's only like 3 hours away from Los Angeles driving. So you're comparing two places that are pretty close together. You might be, listening to this and saying, dude, I'm never going to live in Tijuana. Like, I would rather live in Los Angeles. Maybe I get that. But it's just interesting because these cities are close together. And Tijuana is obviously one of the most expensive cities in Latin America. If you were willing to go to other parts of Mexico, other parts of Central and South America, Argentina, whatever, it's going to be a lot less expensive. We could even put Spain in here and show you how much cheaper Spain is. Maybe actually I'll do that next. So in any case, it says that you would need around $8,800 a month in Los Angeles to maintain the same standard of living that you could have with 55,000 Mexican pesos in Tijuana, which is around $3,000. So $3,000 in Tijuana is the same amount of money as $8,800 in Los Angeles. And this is the cost of living plus rent index. So where are we talking about rent here? I really want to see what it says about rent. So it says rent is 340% higher in Los Angeles than Tijuana, which is, a non-negligible amount. So as you can see, the general idea here is that cost of living in Tijuana is around $3,000 a month, and in Los Angeles, it's $8,800 a month. And the problem is that you've only been compensated an extra $70,000 a year to live in Los Angeles. So what is that? So 70,000 divided by 12 with my genius math is an extra $5,800 a month. So you're only getting paid an extra $5,800 a month to live in Los Angeles, which really just barely covers the increase in cost of living, if at all. And that, on top of the fact that you've completely lost your location independence, you've completely lost your freedom. If I said to you, hey bro, let's go to Japan, let's go to Egypt, let's do cool stuff, let's go to Brazil, you would be unable to do that because you would be tied to that office in Los Angeles. And let's actually do, how do I update this? I want to do like compared to Spain, somewhere maybe you'd actually be down to live instead of Tijuana. So let's do like Seville, Spain. Okay? So in LA, again, you need $8,800 to have the same life that you could have with 3,300 euros in Seville. That actually seems very high for Seville because the average salary in Spain is really only like $1,000-something, maybe $1,500. So this seems higher than I would have expected. But in any case, consumer prices are 100% higher in LA. Rent prices are 270% higher in LA. Restaurant prices are 120% higher in LA. I would think it would be more actually. And grocery prices are 92% higher in LA. Right? So as you can see, the cost of living in Los Angeles is just so much higher than the cost of living in Mexico or Spain. But you already knew that. And I think just what's important to note more than anything is that what would you really, truly rather? $186,000 and you have to live in LA, I'm not even sure these calculations take into consideration how you need a car, where in Seville, you do not need a car. In Tijuana, you don't really need a car. Maybe, but whatever. And in Los Angeles, you obviously need a car, and that's going to cost another $2,000 a month. It's a lot more mental overhead. It's objectively lowers your standard of living, having to drive around everywhere in a motorized wheelchair instead of walking around like a normal person. So what would you rather, $186,000 and be confined to Los Angeles, or would you rather $111,000 and be able to travel the world at a whim? So let's say that you had $110,000, just to make it a round number. You would have $9,000 a month, over $9,000 a month to travel the world. Bump this up, give it a little grand extra, round number, boom. $9,250 after tax to travel the world, to see the world, to live wherever you want. This is enough money. You could basically live anywhere in the States if you really wanted to. And so why confine yourself to living in Los Angeles to make an extra $5,000 when you could travel the world and have an exciting life and do cool stuff and keep that brain stimulation high instead of being caught in Los Angeles traffic every day, commuting to work? That's another thing we're actually not considering here, is that if you had to commute to an office in Los Angeles an hour each way, 2 hours a day, that's actually lowering your per hour wages. So I really think that that should be discounted. And maybe I'll do a video on that in the future, because if you're spending as a average, let's just say like average Los Angeles resident time in car. Are we going to get an answer here? So to the drive alone, the commute to work on average is 31.6 minutes. I assume that's each way, so that's over an hour a day, and that's just commuting to work. What if you needed to commute to the gym? What if you needed to commute to the grocery store? Nobody is walking to the grocery store in Los Angeles. You 100% are commuting to the grocery store in Los Angeles. Whereas if you were living in Seville or somewhere in Latin America, you are not commuting to the grocery store. Really, most likely you're going to get deliveries to your house, or you're going to a beautiful outdoor market full of life and activity, and you'll feel rejuvenated to even be alive. So to me, it's just a no-brainer. Like $9,250 to travel the world every single month. You could live anywhere in the world on $9,250 a month. You could live in the most expensive cities in Latin America in a penthouse apartment or a dope mansion, whether that be Panama, Uruguay, Costa Rica. There's nowhere that's off limits in Latin America with this kind of salary. So hopefully in this video, this puts things in perspective a little bit more. I think sometimes it is a bit of like a loser's move to consider taxes and like have that be like a big thing. But hopefully in this video, we didn't consider taxes from like a loser scarcity mindset perspective, but rather like an abundance perspective and a realist perspective, where it's really just a psyop, where the top line number is really not what ends up in your pocket. And so that's something to consider. And if it also means giving up your freedom, giving up your mobility, giving up your location independence, to me, that's also a losing proposition, because that means it's going to be that much harder to internationalize, to acquire second citizenships, to go where you're treated best, all the things we talk about at My Latin Life. So hopefully this video was helpful for you, and I really hope that we have convinced that Twitter commenter to deny that job offer for $300K, aka $180K, and to continue with his $120K remote salary.